Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It is time for us to review Portrait of a Lady on Fire. We saw this at the New York Film Festival. This is early, folks. This movie's not coming out till December, and we are just so lucky to have seen it early. It is directed by Celine Sciamma.
The movie's about a painter who's commissioned to paint a rich lady's daughter who is about to be married, and these two form a relationship. That's all I will say.
This is one of those films that comes out at Cannes Film Festival. It is just immediately considered one of the great films.
Some might say it caught fire at the Cannes Film Festival. What a fire this is. Easily, I'd say, one of the most extraordinarily well-directed, well-made films of this year. And I would say, perhaps we even extend that to the decade. The filmmaking that's on display here is just top notch. I was surprised to see that this director hasn't done a film of this level before. We saw Girlhood and we thought that was a really great film, but it wasn't as memorable as this one. I truly can't wait to see what this director does next. It was so masterful.
What about it is masterfully crafted? Is it one of those things where you just see it and well, sure, it's that, but it's also that every single element of this movie comes together in such a way that you can analyze any piece of it. Such a juicy film that lends itself to rich analysis. People are going to write essays about this film. It's just that kind of movie.
It's not a pretentious movie. It's one that is very deeply felt, I think, and one where you feel it, I think, emotionally before you process it intellectually. There's a lot to process intellectually, as Oscar expert here pointed out. But this is such a deeply felt love story, I think, and it never loses sight of the fact that it's a romance. It's not a romance that focuses on forbidden or doomed love. It's actually more of a celebration of these people's relationship. This movie's let's be about the highs and lows of relationships. Let's be about everything about that experience and what we can take away from it, what we carry with it. It's also similar in a way to Persona, I think, with the way these characters influence each other. This is like a Hitchcock movie if Hitchcock's movies had joy in them. They were just sunnier. Imagine the plot of this film in a Hitchcock movie. That's all I have to say. It's somebody who's trying to get a sense of who this person is. They're figuring them out. They're trying to paint them, and they can't. Sure. There's some aura of mystery as to why they can't do this.
Vertigo.
Yeah, I got Vertigo vibes from it, but it's not dark.
I think that there are direct Persona elements in this movie. Some of the framing, when there are close-ups and their heads are in the frame.
The symbiotic relationship of the two main characters. It asks sort of the same questions, but again, does it in a way that I feel is unique.
And while this is a romance, it takes a while to kind of settle into that. And it's also a movie that goes far beyond the scope of romance. You could certainly apply this to just any relationship that is built in life. The first thing that will strike you about this movie is the visuals, the cinematography. All the colors, the framing, everything.
My goodness.
Is
very intentionally a painting.
Like a painting, but it's also this kind of emotional lubricant. Cinematography can also serve where
I don't like that you said emotional lubricant. I'm feeling weird about that.
I might make a couple people uncomfortable with that, but you know what? This is we're making art here. You will probably see some film Twitter buddies just posting random frames from this movie, because there are a lot of those frames where you're you could just Twitter aesthetic this thing.
The blocking in the movie, the way that a frame will communicate so much information at you, the way that the actors are positioned in relation with each other, every frame has so much language in it. I just think the cinematography in this is easily some of the best in the year. There's so many memorable shots in the movie,
and it serves a purpose.
And it's not just some pretentious movie that's nicely made and well done. It's a movie that you feel just as much as you can analyze.
You might be wondering, what's the point of this movie being a period movie? It's because it takes you back to this time where a portrait has a lot of meaning. To create an image is a big deal. And in today's world, obviously, we are just absolutely saturated with images. It's interesting to be transported to a world where
there's
the idea of one image is heightened. It's also such a unique film, and there's a great feel to it. It's kind of a slow burn, but it has intensity. It's not boring. I love the kind of chamber quality of it, where there's not a whole lot of characters, not a whole lot of locations, but the film is propelled by this kind of day-night rhythm. Every day the characters will inch on their relationship and then at night it's kind of like contemplating where they're at, or maybe she's painting, and what does that look like at the moment. It propelled the movie forward. They let the actors do so much of the talking with so little. Each of the actors has just this distinct face to them, and it is so integral to their character, like the way that their faces like sort of move in the slightest of ways, and the movie even brings it up and makes a point about that. You know, it's about what it means to be seen, looked at, what it means to see or look at another person, to see them looking back at you, and, you know, it can go on for infinity. Being so aware of this theme of seeing and being seen makes the audience hyper aware of every frame of this movie, because there are so many subtle shifts.
This is cinema of the gazes. And this is also where I kind of like relate to Hitchcock. It's very much about point of view. They have a lot of single frames where it's almost like, you know, it even sounds like lamps, where like they're looking like so closely to the lens, and you cut back and that person's like looking back at you, and it's all about the subtle shifts in their faces and how they're communicating without saying anything. This is very much a show, not tell movie, and it's speaking to the ability for us to communicate without saying anything, how powerful gazes can be and how powerful looking at somebody is. The movie is literally about that, but it also brings that theme into the movie. Like, it integrates it into like the fabric of how the movie is made, how the movie is shot.
And the film is so great at hooking you in that it knows that it can create all these subtle shifts, and it knows that the audience is going to pick up on every single one because it has you. It has grabbed you. That is part of the reason why it is just unmistakably a masterful film.
I would call it, you know, masterpiece.
Masterpiece, you know, masterful. Masterpiece is not a step too
this
far.
Movie, flat out masterpiece, in my opinion.
I mean, I'll agree with that.
I think it's one for like the decades. Over time, it could earn its place as like one of the great movies.
I certainly see this film having a legacy and being remembered decades from now. But when you say one of the great movies, like that's
like when people look at films from our decade, like it'll be there.
Yeah, I think that this could easily be
I
considered
mean.
one of the best of the decade.
If there's any justice in the world, which, you know, there's not, we would see both these actresses get nominated for Oscars. I felt like they were so their characters, just with their movements and all the subtleties about them, like their ability to pick up on the nuances in every character and how they might react to the other person. Both of them have these scenes where they become very emotional towards the end. And each one of them has like a chance to stand out and do some like excellent work where like you can't help but be moved when you see like the vulnerability each put on display.
You can always tell in what way they're being themselves, in what way they're holding back themselves.
A platter full of vegetables, legumes, lots of things that you can digest over time. I think the movie can, you know, form in the mind.
The hour preceding the movie, I actually, you know, more thinking about it, I just liked it more and more, Justin.
The hour preceding?
Proceeding.
Let's let the audience decide. Is it proceeding or preceding, or is proceeding the opposite of preceding?
Preceding would be before. Post-seeding.
Okay, new word here.
Post-seeding the movie.
Make it part of your vocabulary. Following
The movie.
Following is the perfect word. We don't need to come up with a fancy word.
But I liked post-seeding.
Yeah, we'll use that one. The final shot of this movie is incredible. It will probably stay with you forever. So, that being said, you know, what better reason do you have to see this movie?
In December. You're just going to have to wait. This review is going to excite you up, and then you're going to have to wait a long, long time. Could get into a whole analysis, but that would be spoilers. I can't do that with you, but I could talk about this movie for a bit while more.
Yeah, we talked about this movie for a long time after, and it was a very good movie to take apart and analyze and try to like dig deeper into. You know, I would suggest bringing your, you know, friends along with you, your movie friends along with you.
Not all friends.
Maybe not your grandma.
Grandmas can be cinemaphiles too, though.
That's true.
Cinemaphiles.
Probably tell. Gonna give this one a 10. Best movie of the year. We will see if anything beats it. We'll see if Parasite's better. Who knows? It's only just slightly above Last Black Man in San Francisco for me, just because that was another movie that I thought was a masterpiece.
I'm also going to have to give this movie a 10 out of 10. It is a rich experience, and I hope that you will be enriched by the richness.
I don't want to use this word, but like you'll be shook. Unfortunately, you will not see this movie get nominated for a
almost
single Oscar
forgot,
this
almost
year
forgot. Oh my
because
God.
France chose random ass Les Miserables for their foreign language pick, thinking it would appeal to voters more. This movie, I'm sorry, portrayally on fire as a masterpiece, and it has a 93 on Metacritic. There's no way it wouldn't get nominated.
They might not even get nominated for Les Miserables, and if they don't, then you know what? Fuck them. You knew what you did wrong. You know, maybe you'll have to pay for your mistakes. Thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. Where's your portrait hung?